Great to be here, lads.
So
my debut.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious straight away why his nickname is Smiley, isn't it?
It is, to be fair. Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely not a bad nickname. There's a Smiley in every club, I'd say.
I've been called worse.
So, Smiley, let's talk about Ballyhale against Naas this weekend. I think the whole country is expecting it to be a pretty comfortable win for Ballyhale, considering how dominant they've been both locally and even, just all the All-Irelands they've collected in recent times. But with Tom Mullally as manager, and you know him well as his coach with Carlow, he'll have him very well prepared. And his record as a club manager, never mind county, is unbelievably impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no. Look, Tom will have every angle covered. Preparation will be excellent, and when he was involved with Mount Leinster Rangers, they were being written off the whole way up as well, and won a Leinster, and then I think they were beaten in All Ireland afterwards. But without doubt, Tom will have the plans in place, and it'll be whether that can carry it onto the pitch and Ballyhale can react to that, which they haven't been found wanting to, very often in the past. So hopefully they'll be able to do it again.
And why do you pronounce it as Ballyhale? Because you were the first one to put me on to this. When you came in with Coola, I was like, what's he on about Ballyhale? Is there not a Y in the middle of this?
Ballyhale, yeah. We have our own language in South Kilkenny, yeah. So that's where we go. We've taken plenty of abuse for it over the years as well. Another stick to beat as well.
Yeah. What's the mood like in Ballyhale this year? Because obviously the All Ireland went the way it did. Maybe you'd had a bit of a get out of jail card against St. Thomas's in the All Ireland semi final, but the way Ballygunner stunned you then in the All Ireland final, what's the mood been like since?
Yeah, well, I'd say, definitely a lot of hurt. I think last year, I'd say the lads had even admitted themselves they probably weren't playing great hurling the whole way through, and actually probably in the final they played their best game, and I'd say probably regret when they had a bit of supremacy there, and the only frees were keeping Ballygunner in it maybe midway through the second half, that they didn't press on and kind of left the game there that Ballygunner could come back into it. So it did hurt them. I suppose they're usually on the other side of getting those late wins, just with the belief that they have that keep going, and the history in the club, and that it's always worth a few points in those the clutch moments that they call. But I think definitely a renewed focus, and I think this year they've been playing, to my eye anyway, kind of playing with more of a pattern to their play. I suppose last year they seemed to me to be just relying on kind of individual brilliance. You have TJ's free there to get over the line in the semi, and then just the whole way through they were kind of getting narrow wins, just eking it out with someone doing something special in the last 5 or 10 minutes. While this year I think they're a lot more methodical in their play, and everyone seems to know where the ball is going, switching the player down the line, whatever it is. But the forwards, the delivery seems to be better, and they're working the ball out better, to my eye anyway. So I'd say there's definitely a renewed focus there. And I suppose being the 50th year of the club and going for the 5 in a row, there was a whole load of motivating factors there. And then you had the Club All Ireland, that sore loss thrown in on top of that. So I said the whole kind of mixing everything in the pot makes kind of a perfect storm for them this year,
And it's also been a tough year losing Paul Shefton. I know you were coaching. Was it a minor team you were telling me that you'd coached with him in the past? Yeah. So Paul would have been, if you can think of a club man, I suppose he was friends with everyone in the club and would talk to anyone from about anything really. If you had no interest in hurling, people would still call him a great friend. He could talk to anyone about anything. Just a lovely fella, as genuine as you could meet. So that was really shook the club as well, And I suppose we've had a lot of tragedy down through the years in Ballyhale with young people, the Elwood family as well, and it's just for whatever kind of thing does be hanging over, but. Paul was definitely like a huge. Remember, he came to me that no one would take that minor team. I suppose typical enough in rural areas where you have a spurt of a group coming together, and then you might lull. So we were actually going down for that minor team. We were actually going down where I think Jake Mullen played, and he was only 13, I think.
make the 15 players that day. So a younger brother of Darren and Adrian and Paddy again. So so Paul had a nephew playing on it, and they weren't really getting any. So he was approached today. He said, "Would I come in with him?" So we did, and we're not great crack out of him the whole year. To be fair, like we won a couple of matches, but we had only kind of a strong spine up the middle, and the rest were under 15s, and then we're even down to under 13s for some of the corner positions. Yeah, but it's say you only need one or two. I think two then came on from that minor teams, which was 2 years ago. Two of them have been starting on and off the whole year and came on the county final. So we had Killian Corcoran there, which would be Ron and Dara's younger brother, and then Niall Shortall came on and scored that pint off the hurl. That's my trademark there that I taught 2 years ago.
Yeah, oh, that'll be your hurling, all right. Michael, you want to hop in there?
Yeah, no, just something you said about the about kind of the renewed freshness, John. Like any element of staleness, like it did look like there was a bit of staleness there last year, just from being on the road so long, I'd say. But I know even chatting Colin Fennelly after the county final, like they all look like they're hopping again. Everybody, like it's almost like everybody's at the boil the whole time. They're not relying on one lad now to pull out something. It's a real team, all firing on all cylinders. And even the way they're playing now, like they're throwing around the ball. It's so impressively how they throw around that ball. There was a score that Evan Shefflin got in the county final, where it's like 10 passes and it's just so measured, so controlled. I was looking from the press box the last day, and Richie Reid just put a ball, like there's a man standing 25 yards in front of him, a Ballyhale man 10 yards behind him, no problem, the ball just over the top. They're so loose, and but it's so controlled as well. They look like a team, like I'd say they're probably like hitting a bit of a peak now, even though they hit a couple of peaks before. And there's so many guys in good form. Like you couldn't go through the team and say there's anyone out of form. They're all playing to a really high level now, which is a dangerous thing for Naas and probably a dangerous thing for a lot of other teams.
Yeah, I think you can kind of compare last year. You can kind of compare, I suppose, what Limerick were doing this year. They were winning games, but they were leaving teams in it the whole way up, and just grinding it out kind of then. And I suppose Ballyhale got caught, whereas Limerick didn't. They got caught with that sucker punch against Ballygunner in the final. And then, Colin and Joey were in America there for the summer, and I was over there with them for a while as well. But that totally freshened them up. And, they just came back with a renewed hunger, and they had the county lads coming back, and they kind of had it was a whole load of kind of ingredients that went into for it, a newfound determination for this year, a new hunger, just the whole 5 in a row. You had Paul, you had the beaten last year, fresh management team coming in, and I agree with you that, like the hurling that they're playing this year, they all kind of know what they're doing. I suppose that the real challenge for Naas is kind of, people talk about the forwards that the Shamrocks have, and they do have brilliant forwards, but the delivery in from the half back line and midfield area, midfielders coming deep and delivering that ball in, has been phenomenal. So if you look against Tullaroan in the semi-final, like Colin Fennelly there got 1-3 or 1-4 off young Tommy Walsh, but it was the delivery of the ball in deep inside into the full forward line that on his favourite side. And if Colin's between you and the ball, you're not getting it. And then when he gets the ball in his hand, he's very hard to stop. So yeah, I'd agree with all of what you said there. They definitely have a renewed focus. They're playing better, renewed hunger. They all seem to be on form. And I suppose the older lads, they're not old as in decline, but the younger lads have definitely stepped up. Like Adrian Mullen, the work rate he's going through this year especially. Like I suppose he had the crew sheet there 2 years ago and he was still working his way back, but this year he's been phenomenal. Dara Corcoran has really stepped up there in the half back line as well, like a massive man, brilliant ball player as well. Richie Reid, since he made the breakthrough at the county, has gone on to another level in centre back there as well. So like there's while the forwards are taking all the headlines and they're playing fantastic stuff, I think that the real difference this year has been the delivery of the ball in from the half back line, in midfield area, Ronan Corcoran, Paddy Muller, and the lads I called out there, so that's for me, that's the real challenge for Naas is cutting that out, and and then I think you're giving yourself a chance. But yeah, that's where I think the main improvement has been.
Smiley, was there much blackguarding going on when you joined Joey and Colin in America for the summer? You're a married man with kids now at this stage, so you shouldn't be heading off to America on a day, wouldn't it?
They're all over with me. I won American final over there. It took a few sessions. I came with full credit for that.
Is that the first title you ever won then?
You lost one for me with Kula, but other than that, I was doing okay.
Hey, now, this is perfect timing to bring this in. Keane Waldron, former Kula clubman, saying, good to see two of you talking after all the controversy surrounding the 2012 county final. Who wants to take this story up or give their side of events?
I don't know if we had any controversy there, did we?
I come on there first anyway. I think Shane had an injury, I think, during the year. But what is it? Finger injury? Did you break a finger that year? Yeah. So it was coming back. He was out, I think, for the knockout, and he was coming back. He was going to be back about 2 weeks before the county final. So anyway, he was eager to make a point in training any year that he was ready. So wherever we threw him on, there was lads coming off with cuts under the face guard, slaps on the thumbs, the whole lot. He was making his point anyway. But so I think we were 2 points down against Kilmacud already then, and Shane was on the bench, and we were 2 points down, 15 minutes to go, and we turned around, and there was only one face we saw, Stafo there. So he had the bit between the teeth. He was ready for action. Said, "This lad make the difference." So we brought him in anyway. 3 minutes later, 3 frees, 5 points between the teams.
Oh, I'll tell you something, John. You came armed today, in fairness. Yeah,
this is a stitch-up. This is a big stitch-up. I think we had it last on the sideline anyway.
The sideline always gets the blame anyway.
It's funny, John. This man, I always say he has selective memory. He didn't think there was any issue with the 2012 county final, so he's clearly forgotten those 3 frees that he gave away.
I think the first ball was poked down on him. The referee had the whistle blown while the ball hadn't even landed. Free in. And they weren't giving away frees easy that day either, I'll tell you.
I'd say he was a hard enough man to handle, John, was he? Coaching wise, management wise.
No, he wasn't the worst. We won't say too much bad about him.
Oh, just John, say all you like. There's no panic at all. Like
he brought plenty of ignorance to the table.
We always say that's a good trait, to be fair.
It is November anyway, yeah.
I was just thinking of one of the lads that you would have been training as well at the time, Shane Walsh. He's also from Tipperary, and he played with us for a couple of years. He's involved with Nace now.
Nace,
a few years. He went through a fairly serious procedure there recently, and I know he's on the mend, and he's not. We won't be doing a bit of hurling at the moment, but we'll wish him the best. But do you remember after the All-Ireland semi-final in 2012 when Tipperary got absolutely hammered by Kilkenny? And obviously you being a Kilkenny man, and Keane Waldron, who was commenting there as well, and myself and Shane Walsh, who we were calling Pig Walsh. His father's a guard and his father is known as Pig Walsh. We obviously latched onto that straight away. But do you remember how we reacted to the whole Tommy Walsh and Lara Corbett and the little circus that was going on at training the next day? myself and Pig Walsh showed up in full tip regalia, head to toe, and started chasing each other around the field. Because obviously we had the leg to stand on when we were talking about that.
Yeah. You cut out any chance for slagging there anyway, straight away.
Cut it off at source. Hey, how are things going with Carlo anyway? You enjoying that?
Yeah, loving it. Yeah, it's great. You have players there. Great to turn up and have 30 players, a high standard and interested and willing to go. With club teams during the summer there can be an awful lull there when you're down to 12, 14, 15 players, lads gone to America, gone on holidays and so on, So, and the season is short as well, up to June, January to June kind of thing. And so it's great, really enjoying it. Tom, great to work under as well. He's always challenging players and challenging coaches as well, and kind of thing, talking through things before, reflecting on things afterwards and so on. So, a very good setup is strength and conditioning coach there, and nutritionists and so on, physios and so on. So you're learning there the whole time as well, from other aspects of it, So really enjoying it.
Just on Tom, John. Tom is a serious operator. Like the run with Mount Leinster Rangers, even with Carlo, I always brought Nash through the ranks as well. Like probably maybe a bit unheralded, and kind of surprised maybe that he hasn't, had even one of the county jobs within Kilkenny, be it minor or 20s or something like that. But he's a serious operator.
Oh yeah, it's like very successful, and even Clara and Kilkenny won county championships with it as well there. So yeah, so everywhere he goes, he's bringing silverware. Yeah, and you can see just that in the Naas team feeding into the Kildare team as well. You know that they're having a huge influence on that. But Tom, he's very, I suppose, good just in kind of psychological sense of getting into players' heads. You know, all constantly getting the players to improve and to keep looking for areas they can improve and reflecting on their performance and all that kind of stuff, you know. So excellent, and you can see it. You can see why he's been successful, kind of everywhere he goes. He brings good standards and a good culture into the place as well, you know. So no, without doubt. And you'd have to say, like, even the management teams that I don't know the Kilmacud, but Morris Elwood there with St. Mullins as well, very successful. The whole way up, he won Club All Ireland with Ballyhale and did a 3 in a row over Ballyhale as well, and I think he won a Junior All Ireland with Ballyragget as well, and they went on to win an intermediate county final, and I think they could have been beaten in the intermediate All Ireland, were they? Yeah, and he was involved with Glenmore last year, who won the intermediate final in Kilkenny, and then St. Mullins this year. So he obviously has a very strong credentials as well. And no more than our own Ballyhale management team as well. You know, they're being involved in successful, I think, underage Kilkenny minor teams as well. You know, kind of hoping in that. So, yeah. So, like you know, that those people they bring, they're great man managers. I think is their main thing, and I think that's very important to keep numbers 20 to 30 happy and content, which is not always easy to do. You know, so. To get those numbers down for training and so on, but and always getting the better players to keep looking to improve and looking to impress. You know, that's I think the two main strengths. But yeah, no doubt, it's a very serious operator. Yeah, and like Tom will have no stone left unturned at the weekend. You know, so
I was watching Kilmacud against Clock Ballacalla recently, and they were very impressive and saw the game out, and Clock got a couple of red cards, so that obviously affected their chances in that game. But from a St. Mullins point of view, and the players that you have with Carlow as well, the likes of Mouse Kavanagh, most people know, but can you talk to us about some of the players that you have with Carlow that Crokes will have to be watching this weekend?
Yeah, like I think like St. Mullins are probably an underrated team. I think they'd be strong enough. Like they've Conor Keogh now as a young player. He kind of played inside. I think he was midfield the last day, but we kind of played him as a full forward in the full forward line. But he'd come out and win his own ball. He's a very good player, young player. You have John Doyle as well, very strong in the air, very good to use the ball. Then in say you have James Doyle. Then he wasn't in with us last year, no, but he was there the year before. Like I think did he get 2-5 or something in a Club All Ireland a couple of years back, intermediate Club All Ireland maybe a couple of years back. But again, an excellent player, very strong runner, massive strike on a ball, you know, if he gets in around goal, and he'll need to be watched. So they do have dangers there. They have dangers there in their forward line. And then is it Jason O'Neill? And he hasn't been in with Carlow. I think he got 2-7 in the county final as well. So like they're very good forwards, and you make sure Morris Elwood will have his homework done about how best to utilise them. You know, the Shamrocks always play a lovely brand of hurling under Morris between 06 and 08 there as well. You know, so. Yeah, so they'll all have to be like I know Mouse will get most of the attention, but the other lads are very like Jason O'Neill's 2-7 in a county final, and James Doyle, Conor Keogh, they're all capable of scoring 4 or 5 points from play, or 1-4, 1-5, whatever it may be. So there's more than Mouse to watch. Now Mouse is an excellent player, but they have dangers there all over the field, you know. And then Ger Cody in the back line there, he was in as well. And they've other lads, Jack Kavanagh, and a couple of more there back there as well, you know. So they're an experienced side and they're a quality side, I think. But like no more than Kilmacud are very good now as well, you know. So I think that could be a tight enough game, you know.
Yeah, Alex Considine was suspended for the last day out against Clock, so you'd imagine he'll be back. He's definitely like a very physical player, very direct, so he's someone that Mullins will have to watch. Davy Crowe limped off, injured the last day. It looked like maybe a hamstring, some sort of a leg injury, so Crokes would be hoping he's right. And I was even thinking about the midfield. Brian Hayes and Davy Crowe, they're both young lads, both very dynamic. And you'd imagine, Michael, that Jack Kavanagh will be looking to, I don't know, maybe even lower the blade, get into them anyway.
Yeah, well, he's a real enforcer around the middle of the pitch. Can teeter on the line a small bit, but a very, very physical player, perfect for this time of the year as well. And just on what John is saying there as well, the forwards probably get the limelight a lot of the time, but it's lads like that. And the more than we said, like a Will O'Donoghue with Limerick, or a Paddy Levy with Ballygunner, it's those real workhorses that do a lot of the work, and hardship for other lads that are kind of the difference makers in games. But yeah, I'd be the same as John, expecting that to be a very, very tight game. Crokes are, a young, mobile side, playing tactically very, very astute, playing through the lines, playing to their strengths, using the sweeper as an attacker when they have the ball. Mullins, a very good side as well, obviously tactically astute too. Probably a bit maybe more physical than Crokes, and I'm sure they'll be trying to impose their physicality on it. Yeah, it's a tough one here, because as I said to you, like Mullins gave Ballyhale a great game, as John, I'm sure, was at that game with two caps on a couple of years ago. They were until down the stretch, it was Ballyhale pulling away down the stretch. Mullins gave him a great game for 55 minutes. Crokes, it's still a bit of an unknown at provincial level what exactly they can do. So I'd probably be just about stumping for Mullins in this, to be honest with you, just because but they probably have that bit more experience at provincial level in recent years, and the fact that they got over that big gap, was it 13 or 14 weeks, 14-week gap, I think they had to the
Ferns game.
They got over that. I'm sure they would have been sore for a few days after, maybe more so than normal, and they'll be primed and ready to go. But to me, that's probably the game of the weekend, because I'd say it's the hardest game of any of the real big games of the weekend. It's the hardest game to call, but it probably just about tipped the scales in Mullins' favour, just about now.
Are you going to talk about the ponies?
Well, I obviously work a small bit in racing, but John, you've had some time of it the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think she was outside. She was the outsider in the Arkle when she won, and she was totally written off in the Champion Chase when she won in 2021. Put the kettle on. You've had some time with her. Just talk me through the emotions of going to Cheltenham with a chance, and then when you see her jumping the last with, what was it, Shakin Swan, Nuba Negra last year. Unbelievable buzz.
Yeah, look, you couldn't, like, we've had horses, they're ponies all our lives since we were young, and riding ponies with the hurling and so on, and show jumping and hunting or whatever, so we bought a mare before her. The uncle came back from America, and 5 of us went in, and then she won a couple of races, but the tendons went in her, so she went for breeding then. So we bought this one out of that then. Yeah, I'll look at it. Sure, we I think we ran in a grade 3 novice in Tipperary. I think in the end of is it end of September, early October, and we were hoping she'd place or whatever, but she just got pipped on the line by a Willie Mullins horse. And it was over 2.5 miles. So the crowd of us head over to Cheltenham every November, anyway, just for the racing, kind of a holiday. And so Henry knew we'd go over, and he says there's a 2-mile race there in November, and he said she wanted to go a bit faster there, so we would drop her back to Sue. And I said, well, if you think she's good enough, we'll go, we'll be there anyway. So anyway, she won the Arkle trial there, and she was the outsider of the 4. There was only 4 in that race, and she was the outsider of that as well. Nichols had a favourite, and that, but she won that. So then she'd had a busy summer, so Henry said we'd leave her off and bring her back for the Arkle then after winning that. So yeah, but there was no one talking. I think Henry had the favourite notebook. Right, and there was no one talking about our one at all. I think the brother was on the phone to him, and he said, "Geez, should we go for the handicap?" He says, "No one talking about her at all." And he said, "Oh no." He says, "She's after beating half that field already." So he said, "We let her take her chance." He said he'd be disappointed if she wasn't in the first 4 or 5 anyway, So but look, you never dream of, like, I remember being there looking at her coming up the hill. Facker Duderee made a mistake. The 2 of them came around the bend together, and they were kind of clear of the rest, and Facker Duderee got into the bottom of the second last, and she got 2 or 3 lengths there, and she just plugged on up the hill then, like Stapleton there, as dogged as you like.
A bit more class now than Stapleton.
A bit more class.
I'm not carrying top weight like me.
What's it like when she crosses the line and going down the chute on the way back in and welcome.
Yeah, I should look. I'd say it's what any player wins an All Ireland on the field feels. You're on top of the world, and. We had a few drinks or whatever after, but you're like, whatever you drink, it wouldn't affect you. You were just you were drunk on joy or whatever anyway, So it was just, it's unbelievable feeling. And like I remember we went over there, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before that, and it was our first time over, and we stood at the top of the hill there, a few of us, and we said, "Geez, imagine if you had a runner here," And there we were 5 years later, leading in the Arkle winner. It was mad stuff, mad stuff.
And just even that, Shane, I know you wouldn't follow the racing that much, but like, there's three real main races at Cheltenham: Champion Chase, Champion Hurdle, and the Gold Cup. And this man was involved in the winner of one of them. Like, it's unbelievable. It's fairy tale stuff to have a Champion Chase winner. When you look at the likes of the horses that won it, like Moscow Flyer, Azerty up, Sprinter Sacre, and Ear Horse put the kettle on. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I should look, it's unbelievable. And even like, you had JP there with Fakir Duderee in the Arkle, coming over, and he came over and shook hands with my mother straight after the race, like an absolute gentleman, I have to say, and said, well done. And even we have a picture there in the winners of just everyone beside the horse. And in the background, you can see JP looking over and a big smile on his face. I'd say he was delighted to see, it's just kind of normal people winning it, and like the Champion Chase, you look at it, it's unreal. Yeah, it's fairy tale stuff. That's all you can describe it as, fairy tale stuff.
You sold her, John, and you've reinvested, I believe. That horse was a third. Am I right on debut?
Third in Cork on Sunday. Yeah. And so we buy a 3-year-old filly kind of every year there in the Goffs Land Rover sale. So we have 3 there at the moment. Yeah. So we sold her. We have there's one running there this evening in Thurles as well, but that's the other one, and then the other one's only young. So we have 2 in training there at the moment between us, So so hopefully she'll run well now and show something for the future anyway,
one of your former players here, Shane Holden, says that's Smiley's. He's skipping the principals' conference in January for the Gordon meeting.
Principals' conference moved this year, yes.
The day that stops the county, the Tayestes.
The Tayestes, we'll normally go there.
VIP tickets for Cheltenham?
If we have another one there, I'll bring along Shane.
It's always looking for a freebie, John.
You can surely, with lunch break here, you can surely flash the media badge now at this stage.
So Ballyhale anyway to win this weekend.
Look, you'd be disappointed if they were beaten, but the Nace will definitely put up. I wouldn't have it as the odds suggest. I'd say Nace will definitely put up a good fight, and our lads will have to react to whatever's thrown in front of them, But they haven't been found wanting today, so I'd be hopeful that they will, So, but I don't think it'll be as clear cut as people are saying, So.
Yeah. All right, Smiley, thanks very much for joining us. We'll be chatting to you again soon. We'll be sneering via text later.
Okay, sound lads.
Cheers, John.
Take care. Bye.